Hi everybody, my name is Justin Lake, and this is my presentation over gifts to students and staff and guidelines to follow for EDL 854. Gifting and procedures. Often giving gifts to staff and students can be thoughtful and appreciated by the recipient. Sometimes they're pretty common, whether it be at the beginning of the school year, maybe Teacher Appreciation Week, or maybe for accomplishments that the teacher or the students accomplished during the school year. While the thought is nice, there are certain procedures that must be followed to avoid administrative headaches and issues that can arise. When giving gifts to students, they're only appropriate if they are incentives for fundraising events or as an award for a special achievement. Fundraising incentives obviously can only be given to students who participated in the actual fundraiser and creating the funds themselves. Fundraising incentives also can only be used for the club that raised the money. So, for example, if the football team did a fundraiser, you can't give money to students from the basketball team who are not part of the football fundraiser. Non-fundraising gifts can't favor one group over the rest. So you can't give gifts to, say, the math club for something and not give it to the Spanish club when they did something equally the same. Special achievement gifts should be cheap and appropriate. Basically meaning don't go, blow your wallet on these gifts. They should be small. They should not cost a lot of money. They shouldn't be anything with incredible value. And obviously they need to be age appropriate. And funding comes from the general fund, donations from like parent groups like PTA, stuff like that. And group funds. So let's say that the soccer team, they were given gifts. Well, that could potentially come out of the athletic budget. Staff gifts. Giving gifts to staff should be guided by procedures written by a committee that meets once a year to make sure that the procedures are up to date and to make sure that there are safeguards in place to make sure that money is spent wisely. Special occasion gifts should be reasonably priced and paid for with remembrance funds. Remembrance funds are paid for with yearly dues and donations. I know my school, we have it's called a social fund where all teachers are asked to give $30 at the beginning of the year, and all paraprofessionals are asked to give $15. It kind of goes into that fund for different gifts and stuff. Like on our birthday, we get our favorite candy bar and just other random stuff like that. Remembrance funds should be run by a committee with written procedures for price of gifts and appropriateness of the gifts. Fundraising incentive gifts are only available to staff who participate, very, very similar to how we talked about with students. If I participate in a bake sale with 3 other teachers and we raise a whole bunch of money, it would be appropriate for us to receive a fundraising gift. It would not be appropriate for another teacher who was not a part of the fundraiser to receive a gift. And always remember in the fundraising incentive gifts that the money for those gifts come from the profit of the fundraiser. So keep it reasonable. Typical beginning or end of the year gifts should be affordable and paid for by funds donated and put aside for this very reason. A lot of these funds can come from the staff room vending machines, they can come from bake sales, they can come from raffles, they can come from all sorts of things. These gifts should not be expensive. I think this year my school district gave us a cheap little plastic thing that goes on your cell phone that holds your debit and credit cards. Some schools allow gifts for staff from the general fund. This often isn't the best practice. That money should and could be used for many other things that are more beneficial to the district than providing its teachers with credit card holders for their cell phone. Cash and cash equivalent items like checks or gift cards or anything that can be returned and given cash in return shouldn't be given to staff. It can be considered additional income by the IRS and is taxable. Special efforts for students or staff. Occasionally there are times where a staff member or a student becomes incredibly ill, or there's a catastrophe in their life where they lose a family member or more than one family member. And people are trying to do good by them and raise money to help them pay for the horrible thing that has happened to them. While that is a fantastic idea and should be supported by all, it's really smart to have the person in charge of that be like a parent or somebody outside of the school district, and that to make sure that all funds raised for them are done in an outside bank. Because like I said on the previous slide, if it was done through the school, by the school, that could be considered additional income and could be taxed by the IRS. That concludes my presentation.